Last line of this book fucks me up every time. Thanks, shit.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how you doing? All right?
Doing good, yeah. Hi, Alan. Hi, Jenny.
Oh. How have you been, Bracken? Rory, how's your weekend?
Good. I've been out all afternoon helping a friend put up a curtain rail and all that kind of stuff. Wildly exciting.
That's good. That's impressive because I've been in this flat 10 years now, and the curtain pole still annoys me, and I just can't be bothered to fix it. So if you get it right first time, that's good.
Yeah, it was very satisfying. Just everything coming together perfectly on it. All the raw.
Cool. Was it a hand whittled pole, or was it an off the shelf pole?
It was a bespoke artisanal offering from IKEA.
Yeah.
But I did trim it to fit with a
Nice.
saw, so I guess that's technically bespoke.
I love the fact that Bina is just disappearing into the Aurora Borealis once in a while.
Yeah, she's like a ghost Bina or a chameleon or something.
Always knew you had magical abilities.
But yeah, Bracken's been hanging out with Rizzo all afternoon. I'm very jealous.
It was
Oh,
Oh, yay, that's really nice.
small dog.
I like your collection of plants as well. Is that a new feature next to your left hand, Bracken?
It's been here for a while, actually. I think
Okay.
we moved our couch slightly more this way, so you can maybe see
Okay.
more.
Mm.
You got a lilac?
I do.
Nice. Oh, it's so pretty.
There's no more lilacs here. They're all gone by.
Oh, Alan and Bina, you've got the lilac.
Nice.
Which is small.
Yeah, because our lilac plant doesn't get enough light, so it isn't blooming yet. But some other people, when I went to the shop, had a very in bloom lilac tree.
Actually, let me see. Hold on a minute. I think I have a very sad one. Let me go get it. Because my partner, their lilac is still blooming. I have it. It's just it's a little dehydrated.
Wow, Jenny.
Just a little bit. You look horrified. It's been sitting here for a little while. That's why. It's not like anything bad happened to it.
Oh yeah, it's just a sad piece of plant. Hi,
Well,
Hi, Jenny. Hi, Kim.
Jenny, I love your outfit. Looking awesome.
Hello, Miss Rosie is open for business.
Oh,
Jenny, your outfit game lately has just been particularly on point. I've been very much enjoying it.
No,
Jen looks amazing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
Jen looks gorgeous. Oh, and Ash has lilac too.
Yay!
And I brought my knitting, but I don't have a mushroom.
Oh, baby and lilacs.
I can have a mushroom.
I
They're as
realized
big as his head.
I realized at 7 o'clock this evening it was way too late for me to go looking for saffron robes. Oh well.
Aww.
Aw. You look great anyway, Rory.
Thank
Nice background.
We have bits of lilac everywhere now. Oh no.
They're so fancy too.
Ash's head seems like a very good place to put the bits that fall.
Oh shit!
Nice.
What?
No.
The sexiest vibes I've ever seen.
Thanks, babe.
Or should I call you Keel now?
Yeah.
You can call me whatever you like, baby.
Thanks.
Oh, Sergeant. Sergeant at arms.
Sergeant at arms.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
That's a
You also
fantastic
look
chest plate you got there,
delightful.
Zach.
Thank you. Are you such a colon or knobby?
I don't know. It does say night watch.
Coffee nobby.
Yes. Maybe after.
A valiant member of the watch.
Yes. Yeah. General conscript. Surely you're Carrot.
Yes,
I would take that.
Yep.
Here to man the barricades.
How's everybody doing? I can't believe it's the last session. The last session of this book.
Also, yeah. But in case we haven't said it for the catch-up crew yet, as a collective, for folks who want to be reading and hanging out, we're going to be on the Storytime channel Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. There is a sign-up spreadsheet in the Storytime group for anyone who wants to read anything or organize a game or something else that could be fun to do in that chunk of time. I know that on Thursday, even though we still have our celebration, Andrada and I are going to be watching some live music stuff this week. Anyone wants to join us? So yes, come hang out. We'll still be here, even if Frankie won't be reading us stories, at least Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yay!
Next
Yay!
is Winnie the
Community!
Pooh.
Ongoing community.
So that'll be a good wholesome start to the. We're gonna do maybe the whole of the first Winnie the Pooh book, but I think it might be 4 or 5 days worth instead of 3. So we'll see where we get to.
I mean,
we're
if
ending
you
on-
want to take more days, do it. Read us Winnie the Pooh. It's lovely. Sorry, what were you saying, Allie?
We're ending on the 25th of May, right? The glorious 25th of May. Oh man.
Oh, you've got your lilac plume. You've got. Oh, everyone's got their fucking lilac.
We also have our ginger beer naturally.
Oh my god, amazing. I don't think you're supposed to drink it. I don't think that's.
Oh, okay.
You don't know where it goes. You don't want to know where it goes. We do not want to. I actually researched that because I was like, is this actually a thing? It's a thing. It's a thing.
Man. Well, hey, I'm not here to kink shame. Anyway, move it. Who have we got? Hi, Mike. Hi, Mike. I've got Jenny. Oh my god, Jenny, you look amazing. Oh, hey, Jenny.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Jenny.
Miss Rhodey is open for business.
Yeah.
Incredible. You look
Lisa.
amazing. Lisa. Hi, Kim. Hi, Kim. Who else have we got? Hi, Tabby. Long time no see. Hi, Secret Neville.
Secret Neville.
They are there, but secret.
So mysterious.
So mysterious. Mysterious and beautiful.
Duncan without a background.
Duncan without a background. Duncan! But everyone will know where you live.
I need a screen capture of this. I just need a screen capture.
If only we were recording or something.
Hey, Andy.
Andy.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, not secret Michael, but just very dark Michael. Hi, Michael in the dark.
Looking for something purple, but the light's gone. Oh,
We can feel the purple and sense the purple with you.
How long? Sorry, folks. How long do I boil this egg for? I haven't actually had a hard-boiled egg in many, 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 many years.
10 water. Bring it
8
up to a
minutes.
boil. Oh, I like 7.
How soft or hard do you want it?
Yeah.
It's got to
7
have
is a kind of nice.
Jen's
Thank
there
you
as
for-
well.
Some-
Oh, Nev and Jen both look so beautiful. I love you, Matt.
Matching outfit.
Neville and Jen, I
hey.
would come to these seamstresses to have my trousers altered.
Your hem's
You're
taken in.
welcome anytime.
Yeah, I'll feel my inner seam any day.
Oh, James.
That's your mind.
My
Your
mug. Ah.
I am enjoying the colander. Is it a colander or is it a steel bowl?
Just a steel bowl.
It's a helmet.
I mean, helmet. Steel helmet.
The most stylish.
I mean, it feels very barricade to have
Mm.
a steel bowl on your head as in lieu of a helmet.
Thank you.
You also have tinfoil armor.
Yes.
I like it.
It does say night watch from it.
Says Night Watch.
Probably can't see that.
It's important to be well labeled.
I mean, how else will we not confuse you with the Day Watch?
Exactly.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how would you? It's time. Oh my god. Hello, it's us, Zach and Frankie from the future.
Hello.
What you're about to hear is an attempt at something that we tried to do live last night, completely neglecting the fact that
But alas.
sing-alongs don't work over Zoom.
Yes.
So we've been sent back in time by the history monks to put this right.
Yes.
So without further ado, here is the
Take
final intro to the final Storytime sesh.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only that we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Story time.
Sing-alongs do not work on Zoom.
I do not think that they do work on Zoom. Well, that was about as much of a car crash as might have been expected. Cheers, cheers everybody. Take your rustly armor
I will.
elsewhere.
Oh, I will.
Right, everybody. Now. Here we go. Final session of the final full book, Storytime. Are you ready for the last part of Night Watch? No, me neither. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Time stopped. Coats froze and faded in colour into a world made up of shades of grey. Nearly there, Your Grace, said Sweeper behind Vimes. Ye gods, yelled Vimes, flinging his sword to the ground. You are not making any friends here, you know. The sword hadn't hit the ground. It hung a few inches from his hands and had faded to greyness. There's just a few things we need to tell you, said Sweeper, as if a sword in mid-air was a minor consideration. What's happened to the bloody sword? Said Vimes, to whom it wasn't. Time has stopped for everyone but you, said Sweeper patiently. Actually, that sentence is wrong in every particular, but it's quite a useful lie. It'll just take us a moment to set things up. Now Vimes had time, of some kind, to look around. The whole street was darker, as if the fight had been taking place in the half-light just before dawn. The only colour was in the robes and faces of Sweeper and Q as they manoeuvred a handcart out of an alley. It held a couple of small stone columns and the body of John Keel wrapped in a shroud. We have some good news, said Sweeper. You have? Said Vimes weakly. He walked over to the body. Indeed, said Q, unshipping the stone cylinders. We thought we might have to persuade you to remove all your armor, but you will not, I think, need to do this. That's because it will stay here, said Lutze. Belongs here, see? No, said Vimes. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. He touched the body. So cold, he said. That's what I remember. He was so cold. A morgue does that to people, said Sweeper in a matter-of-fact voice. Now please pay attention, Commander, said Q. When we operate the... Vimes looked up, violence in his eyes. Sweeper laid a hand on Q's arm. We've got things to do for a minute or two, he said. Yes, but it's vital that he knows how we've got things to do for a minute or two, Sweeper repeated, making a face. Oh, what? Oh, yes. We've got things to do. Things to do. Things. They wandered away. Out of the corner of his eye, Vimes saw them walking back and forth across the street, as if taking measurements. He looked back at John Keel. But what could you say? Sorry you're dead? Keel had originally died on the barricades, not in a street fight. But he was just as dead, all the same. Vimes was hazy on religion. He attended watch funerals and went to such religious events as the proper fulfilling of the office of commander entailed, but as for the rest, well, you saw things sometimes that made it impossible to believe not only in gods, but also in common humanity and your own eyes. From what he could remember, Keel had felt the same way. You got on with things. If there were any gods, you expected them to get on with things too, and didn't interrupt them while they were working. What could you say to a dead copper? What would he want said? Ah. He leaned closer. Carcer's going to bloody swing for this, he said, and stood back. Behind him, Sweeper coughed theatrically. Ready, Your Grace, he said. Ready enough, said Vimes. We were telling you about the armor, said Sweeper. The thing is, Commander, Q interrupted, that you and this fellow Carcer and all the clothes and possessions you arrived with form an elongated trans-time anomaly, which is under considerable tension. Vimes turned and looked at Sweeper. It's very, very hard to move things out of the time where they belong, but it takes much less effort to move them back to where they were, Sweeper translated. Vimes carried on staring. Everything really, really wants to stay where it should be, Sweeper tried. You're right there, said Vimes. All we do is grease the way, said Sweeper. We give a little push and it'll all snap back. And away you go. Have you had anything to eat this morning? No. Shouldn't be too messy then, said Sweeper. When Vimes looked puzzled, he went on. Undigested food. It'll stay here, you see. You mean it'll come tearing out of... No, said Q quickly. You won't notice. But a nourishing meal when you get back would be a good idea. And the armor stays here. Q beamed. Yes, Your Grace. Everything. Eye patch, socks, everything. Boots too. Yes, everything. What about my drawers? Yes, those too. Everything. So I'll arrive in the nuddy. The one costume that's in fashion everywhere, said Sweeper, grinning. Then why did all my armour arrive with me when I came? Said Vimes. And damn Carcer had his knives, that's for sure. Q opened his mouth, but Sweeper answered faster. It takes 1,000 steps to get to the top of a mountain, but one little hop will take you all the way back to the bottom, he said. Okay? Well, I suppose it makes sense, Vimes began. That isn't how it works at all, Ludze, wailed Q. No, said Sweeper, but it's another good lie. Look, Commander, we don't have a damn great thunderstorm and we don't have enough stored time. This is a field operation. It's the best we can do. We'll get you back and your prisoner, although you almost certainly won't arrive in the same place because of quantum. It's hard enough making sure you don't arrive 200 feet in the air, believe me. Pushing all your clothes as well when they belong here, that just takes too much power. Now, are you ready? You need to get back to where you were standing. Get to Carcer as soon as you can. You must grab him, otherwise he'll stay behind. Okay, but I've changed lots of things, said Vimes. Leave that to us, said Sweeper. What about Keel? Said Vimes, walking away with reluctance. Don't worry. We told you at the temple. We'll put him in your armor. He'll have died in battle. Make sure nothing happens to young Sam, said Vimes, as Q carefully prodded him into position. The little stone columns began to spin. We will. Make sure Red Shoe gets a decent burial. We will. Not too deep, he'll be wanting to come out again in a few hours. Q gave him a last prod. Goodbye, Commander. Time came back. Ned was looking at him. What happened just then, Sarge? You blurred. You only get one question, Ned, said Vimes, fighting the moment of nausea. Now let's show Snapcase where the line's drawn, shall we? Let's finish it. They charged, the men falling in behind them. Vimes remembered in slow motion. Some of Carcer's men ran at the sight of them. Some raised their hastily reclaimed weapons, and Carcer stood there and grinned. Vimes headed for him, ducking and weaving through the fight. The man's expression changed as Vimes approached. Vimes was speeding up, shoulder charging and thrusting other bodies away. Carcer raised his sword and took a stance, but there was no room for finesse in the melee, and Vimes closed like a bull, knocked the sword up and grabbing Carcer by the throat. You're nicked, my old chum, he said. And then it all went black. He felt, later on, that there should have been more to it. There should have been rushing blue tunnels or flashes, or the sun should have shot round and round the sky. Even pages tearing off a calendar and fluttering away would have been something. But it was just the blackness of the deepest sleep, followed by pain as he hit the floor. Vimes felt arms reach down and haul him to his feet. He shook them off as soon as he was upright and focused through the bleary mist on the face of Captain Carrot. Good to see you, sir. Oh dear, I'm fine, croaked Vimes through a throat that felt stuffed with sand. Where's Carcer? You've got a nasty cut on. Really? I'm amazed, growled Vimes. Now, where the hell is Carcer? We don't know, sir. You just appeared in mid-air and landed on the floor. In a lot of blue light, sir. Ah, muttered Vimes. Well, he's come back somewhere. Somewhere close, probably. Right, sir. I'll tell the men to. No, don't, said Vimes. He'll keep. After all, where's he going to go? He wasn't too sure of his legs. They felt as though they belonged to someone with a very poor sense of balance. How long was I away? He said. Ponder Stibbons stepped forward. About half an hour, Your Grace. We have hypothesised that there was some temporal disturbance, which, coupled with the lightning stroke and a resonance in the standing wave of the library, caused a space-time rupture. Yeah, felt something like that, said Vimes hurriedly. Half an hour, did you say? Did it feel longer? Said Ponder, taking out a notebook. A bit, Vimes conceded. Now, has anyone here got a pair of drawers? I can see your house from up here. That was Carcer. He liked you to stew, to use your imagination. And Vimes had said, where's he going to go? Captain, I want you and every man you can spare, every damn man, to get up to my house right now, understand? He said. Just do it. Just do it now. He turned to Ridcully. Arch-Chancellor, can you get me there faster? The watch wants magical assistance, said the Arch-Chancellor, taken aback. Please, said Vimes. Of course, but you realise that you have no clothes on. Vimes gave up. People always wanted explanations. He set off, overruling the jelly in his legs, running out of the octangle and across the lawns until he reached the university's Bridge of Sighs, where he sped past Nobby and Colon, who were drawn into the wake of watchmen running to keep up. On the other side of the bridge was the garden known as the Wizard's Pleasance. Vimes ploughed through it, twigs whipping at his bare legs, and then he was out and onto the old towpath, mud splashing up over the blood. Then right and a left, past amazed bystanders, and then there were the cat's head cobbles of Scoon Avenue under his feet, and he found the wind to accelerate a little. He didn't slow until he reached the gravel drive and almost collapsed at the front door, hanging onto the bell pull. There were hurrying feet, and the door was wrenched open. If you're not Willikins, said growled Vimes, focusing, there's going to be trouble. Your Grace, whatever has happened to you? Said the butler, pulling him into the hall. Nothing, said Vimes. Just get me a fresh uniform, nice and quietly, and don't let Sybil know. He read everything in the way the butler's face changed. What's happened to Sybil? Willikins backed away. A bear would have backed away. Don't go up there, sir. Mrs. Content says it's all rather difficult, sir. Things aren't happening quite right. Is the child born? No, sir. Apparently not, sir. It's rather... Mrs. Content says she's trying everything, but maybe we ought to send for the doctors, sir. For a childbirth. Willikins looked down. After 20 unflappable years as a butler, he was shaking now. No one deserved a confrontation with Sam Vimes at a time like this. Sorry, sir. No, snapped Vimes. Don't send for a doctor. I know a doctor. And he knows all about this sort of thing. He'd better. He ran back outside in time to see a broomstick touch down on the lawn, piloted by the Arch-Chancellor himself. I thought I'd better come along anyway, said Ridcully. Is there anything? Vimes swung himself onto it before the wizard could get off. Take me to Twinkle Street. Can you do that? He said. It's important. Hang on, Your Grace, said Ridcully, and Vimes's stomach dropped into his legs as the stick climbed vertically. He made a small mental note to promote Buggy Swires and buy him the buzzard he'd always wanted. Anyone prepared to do this every day for the good of the city couldn't be paid too much. Try my left pocket, said Ridcully when they were well aloft. There's something that belongs to you, I believe. Nervously, well aware of what a wizard's pocket might hold, Vimes pulled out a bunch of paper flowers, a string of flags of all nations, and a silver cigar case. It landed on the bursar's head, said the Arch-Chancellor, steering around a seagull. I hope it's not damaged. It's fine, said Vimes. Thank you. I'll put it back for now, shall I? Don't seem to have any pockets on me at the moment. It found its way back, Vimes thought. We're home. And a sort of ornamental armour landed in the high-energy magic building, Ridcully went on. And I am happy to report it is very badly bent out of shape, said Vimes. Ridcully hesitated. He was aware of Vimes's feelings of guilt. Excessively, Your Grace. Completely bent out of shape because of quantum thingamies, I suspect, he said. Vimes shivered. He was still naked. Even the hated formal uniform would have helped up here. But it didn't matter either way now. Guilt and feathers and badges and feeling chilly. There were other things that mattered more, and always would. He jumped off the stick before it had stopped, stumbled in a circle and fell against Dr. Lawn's door, hammering on it with his fists. After a while it opened a crack, and a familiar voice, changed only a little with age, said, Yes? Vimes thrust the door fully open. Look at me, Dr. Lawn, he said. Lawn stared. Keel, he said. In his other hand he was holding the world's biggest syringe. Can't be. They buried John Keel. You know they did, said Vimes. He saw the huge instrument in the man's hand. What the hell were you going to do with that? Basted turkey, as a matter of fact. Look, who are you then? Because you look like... Grab all your midwifing stuff and come with me now, said Vimes. All those funny tools you said worked so well. Bring them all, right now. And I'll make you the richest doctor that ever lived, said Vimes, a man wearing nothing but mud and blood. Lawn gestured weakly towards the kitchen. I'll just have to take the turkey out. Stuff the turkey. I already... Come on! The broomstick did not fly well with 3 on board, but it was faster than walking, and Vimes at this point knew he'd be incapable of anything else. He was out of breath and strength by the time he got home the first time. Now, merely standing upright was a test of endurance. It was the broomstick or crawling. It lumbered down out of the sky and landed unsteadily on the lawn. "Lady upstairs, big bedroom on left," said Vimes, pushing vaguely at the doctor. "Midwife there, not got a clue. All the money you want. Go on." Lorne hurried off. Vimes, helped by Ridcully, followed rather more stiffly, but as they reached the door, the doctor came out, walking backwards very slowly. It became apparent, as he emerged, that this was because Detritus's huge crossbow was pressed against his nose. When Vimes spoke, his voice was slightly muffled because he was lying flat on the ground. "Put the bow down, Sergeant," he managed. "You come rushing in, Mr. Vimes," said Detritus. "That's because he's the doctor, Sergeant. Let him go upstairs. That is an order, thank you." "Right, Mr. Vimes," said Detritus, stepping aside with reluctance and shouldering the bow. At which point the bow discharged. When the thunder had died away, Vimes got up and looked around. He hadn't actually liked the shrubbery very much. That was just as well. Nothing remained but some tree trunks, and they were all stripped of bark down one side. There were a few small fires. "Sorry about that, Mr. Vimes," said the troll. "What did I tell you about Mr. Safety Catch?" said Vimes weakly. "When Mr. Safety Catch is not on, Mr. Crossbow is not your friend," recited Detritus, saluting. "Sorry, sir, but we all a bit tense at this time." "I certainly am," said Ridcully, picking himself off the lawn and pulling twigs out of his beard. "I may not walk properly for the rest of the day. I suggest, Sergeant, that we pick the doctor up, bring him round under the pump and take him upstairs." The things that happened next were a waking dream for Vimes. He moved like a ghost through his own house, which was full of watchmen. No one wanted to be anywhere else. He shaved himself very slowly, concentrating on every stroke. He was aware of noises off, which arrived via the pink clouds in his head. "He says he wants them boiled, the nasty, horrid things. What's that for, to make them softer? Trolls and dwarves on tonight, every door and window covered, and I mean covered. Stood over me and said, damn well, boil them for 20 minutes. Thought they were cabbage. Now he's asked for a small brandy. Mrs. Content stormed out and he said not to let her in again. Igor came and offered to help, and Lorne took one look and said only if he's been boiled for 20 minutes. Puck's doctor when all's said and done. Old Stoneface will cover him with gold if it all turns out right. Yeah, and if it turns out wrong? Vimes got dressed in his street uniform, moving slowly and willing every limb into position. He brushed his hair. He went out into the hall. He sat down on an uncomfortable chair with his helmet on his knees, while ghosts both living and dead hurried around him. Usually, always, there was a part of Vimes that watched the other parts, because he was at heart a policeman. This time, it wasn't there. It was in here with the rest of him, staring at nothing and waiting. Someone take up more towels. Now he's asked for a large brandy. He wants to see Mr. Vimes. Vimes's brain lit up from whatever little pilot light of thought had been operating at the most basic level. He walked up the stairs, helmet under his arm, like a man going to take a statement. He knocked at the door. Lorne opened it. He was holding a brandy glass in his other hand and moved aside with a smile. Sybil was sitting up. He saw through the mist of exhaustion that she was holding something wrapped in a shawl. "He's called Sam, she said. "And no argument." The sun came out. "I'll teach him to walk," beamed Vimes. "I'm good at teaching people to walk." And he fell asleep before he hit the carpet. It was a pleasant stroll in the early evening air. Vimes trailed cigar smoke behind him as he walked down to Pseudopolis Yard, where he acknowledged the cheers and congratulations and thanked people for the lovely flowers. His next stop was at Dr. Lorne's house, where he sat and spoke for a while about such things as memory and how tricky it can be, and forgetfulness and how profitable it could prove. Then, with the doctor, he went to his bank. This institution was, not surprisingly, willing to open outside normal hours for a man who was a duke and the richest man in the city and the commander of the city watch and, not least, quite prepared to kick the door down. There, he signed over $100,000 and the freehold of a large corner site in Goosegate to one Dr. J. Lorne. And then, alone, he went up to Small Gods. Legitimate first, whatever his private feelings, knew enough not to shut the gates on this night, and he'd filled the lamps. Vimes strolled over the moss-grown gravel. In the twilight, the lilac blooms seemed to shine. Their scent hung in the air like fog. He waded through the grass and reached the grave of John Keel, where he sat on the headstone, taking care not to disturb the wreaths. He had a feeling that the sergeant would understand that a copper sometimes needed to take the weight off his feet. And he finished his cigar and stared into the sunset. After a while, he was aware of a scraping noise to his left and could just make out the turf starting to sag in one of the graves. A grey hand was thrust out of the ground, clutching a shovel. A few pieces of turf were pushed aside, and with some effort, Red Shoe rose from the grave. He was halfway out before he noticed Vimes and nearly fell back. "Oh, you frightened the life out of me, Mr. Vimes." "Sorry, Reg," said Vimes. "Of course, when I say you frightened the life out of me," the zombie began gloomily. "Yes, Reg, I understood you. Quiet down there, was it?" "Very peaceful, sir. Very peaceful. I think I'll have to get myself a new coffin before next year, though. They don't last any time at all these days." "I suppose not that many people look for durability, Reg," said Vimes. Reg slowly shovelled the soil back into place. "I know everyone thinks it's a bit odd, but I think I owe it to them, really," he said. "It's only one day a year, but it's like solidarity." "With the downtrodden masses, eh?" said Vimes. "What, sir?" "No argument from me, Reg," said Vimes happily. This was a perfect moment. Not even Reg, fussing around, smoothing down earth and patting turf into place, could detract from it. There'll come a time when it'll all be clear, Sweeper had said. A perfect moment. The occupants of these graves had died for something. In the sunset glow, in the rising of the moon, in the taste of the cigar, in the warmth that comes from sheer exhaustion, Vimes saw it. History finds a way. The nature of events had changed, but the nature of the dead had not. It had been a mean, shameful little fight that ended them, a fly-specked footnote of history, but they hadn't been mean or shameful men. They hadn't run, and they could have run with honour. They'd stayed. And he wondered if the path had seemed as clear to them then as it did to him now. They'd stayed not because they wanted to be heroes, but because they chose to think of it as their job, and it was in front of them. "I'll be off then, sir," said Reg, shouldering his shovel. He seemed a long way away. "Sir?" "Yeah, right. Right, Reg. Thank you," mumbled Vimes. And in the pink glow of the moment, watched the corporal march down the darkening path and out into the city. John Keel, Billy Wiglet, Horace Nancyball, Di Dickens, Cecil Snouty Clapman, Ned Coates, and, technically, Red Shoe. Probably there were no more than 20 people in the city now who knew all the names, because there were no statues, no monuments, nothing written down anywhere. You had to have been there. He felt privileged to have been there twice. The night was welling up as the sun set. It unfolded from the shadows where it had hidden from the day and flowed and joined together. He felt his senses flow with it, spreading out like the whiskers of a dark, giant cat. Beyond the gates of the cemetery, the city noise died down a little, although Ankh-Morpork never truly slept. Probably didn't dare. Vimes felt now, in this strange, calm mood, that he could hear everything, everything, just as he had done back in that terrible moment in Hero Street when history came to claim its own. He heard the tiny sounds in the stone wall as it cooled, the slither of dirt underground as Reg's vacated plot settled, the faint movement of the long grass around the graves. 1,000 subtle sounds added up to a richly textured, localized silence. It was the song of the dark, and in it, on the edge of detection, was a discord. Let's see. He'd put a guard on his house, and they were core people, ones he could trust not to stand around and get bored, but to remain watchful all night long. He hadn't had to explain how important that was. So the house was safe. And the watch houses had double guard too. There was something wrong with Keel's grave. There was always the egg, every year, a little joke out of history. But now it looked as though there was nothing down there but bits of eggshell. As he leaned forward to look, the blade went over his head. But the beast had been ready. The beast didn't think about guards and defences. The beast didn't think at all. But it forever sniffed the air and eyed the shadows and sampled the night, and almost before the swish of the sword, it had sent Vimes's hand thrusting into his pocket. Crouched, he swiveled and punched Carcer on the kneecap with one of Mrs. Goodbody's finest items. He heard things crackle. He launched himself up and forward. He bore Carcer to the ground. There was no science to this. The beast was off the chain and looking to kill. It was not often that Vimes was sure he could make the world a better place, but he was sure now. It was all very clear now. And also very hard. The sword had gone, tumbling into the grass as Carcer went down. But Carcer fought and was as tough as teak. And it is very hard, with your hands, to kill a man who does not want to be killed. Vimes shook off the brass knuckles because what he needed to do now was throttle. There was no room, though. Carcer was trying to stick a thumb in his eye. They rolled across the graves, scrabbling and struggling for advantage. Blood filled Vimes's left eye. His rage needed just 1 second, and that second was being denied. He rolled again and flung out a hand. And there was the sword. He rolled again and staggered up with the blade in his hand. Carcer had rolled too, and was pulling himself up with remarkable speed for a man with only one good knee. Vimes saw that he was dragging himself upright by one of the lilac trees. Blossoms and scent floated down in the darkness. Metal slid. There was the momentary gleam of a knife. And a little chuckle. Carcer's little laugh that said, "Hey, this is all good fun, eh?" "So who's going to arrest me?" he said, as they both gulped air. "Sergeant Keel or Commander Vimes?" "Who said you were going to be arrested?" said Vimes, trying to fill his lungs. "I'm fighting an attacker, Carcer." "Oh, you was, Mr. Vimes," said the shadow. "Only now I'm in front of you." Metal clinked on the gravel path. "And I ain't armed no more, Thrown down my last weapon. Can't kill an unarmed man, Mr. Vimes. You got to arrest me now. Drag me in front of veterinary. Let me have my little say, You can't kill me just standing here." "No one wants to hear anything you've got to say, Carcer." "And you better kill me, Mr. Vimes. I've got no weapon. I can't run." "You've always got an extra knife, Carcer," said Vimes above the roar of the beast. "Not this time, Mr. Vimes." "Come on, Mr. Vimes. Can't blame a man for trying, eh? A man's got to give it his best shot, right? No hard feelings." And that was Carcer. No hard feelings. His best shot. Can't blame a man for trying. Innocent words got dirty in his mouth. Vimes took a step closer. "You got a nice home to go to, Mr. Vimes. I mean, what have I got?" And the man was convincing. He fooled everybody. You could almost forget the corpses. Vimes glanced down. Whoops, sorry, said Carcer. I walked over your grave there. No offence meant, eh? Vimes said nothing. The beast was howling. It wanted to shut that mouth up. You're not going to kill me, Mr. Vimes. Not you. Not you with a badge. That ain't your way, Mr. Vimes. Without looking, Vimes reached up and tore his badge off. Oh, well, I know you want to give me a fright, Mr. Vimes, and many would say you've got a right. Look, here's what I'll do. I'll throw away my other knife. Ha! You know I got another one, right? It's the voice. It could make you think that what you knew was wrong. Okay, I can see you're upset. Fair enough. And you know I've always got a third knife. Well, I'm dropping it now. See, there it goes. Vimes was only a step or two away now. That's it, Mr. Vimes. No more knives. I can't run. I surrender. No messing about this time. I'll give in, okay? Just arrest me, for old time's sake. The beast screamed inside Vimes. It screamed that no one would blame him for doing the hangman out of $10 and a free breakfast. Yeah, and you could say a swift stab now was the merciful solution, because every hangman knew you could go the easy way or the hard way, and there wasn't one in the country that had let something like Carcer go the easy way. The gods knew the man deserved it. But young Sam was watching him across 30 years. When we break down, it all breaks down. That's just how it works. You can bend it, and if you make it hot enough, you can bend it in a circle, but you can't break it. When you break it, it all breaks down until there's nothing unbroken. It starts here and now. He lowered the sword. Carcer looked up, grinning, and said, Never tastes right, does it? An egg without salt. Vimes held his hand, felt his hand begin to move of its own accord, and stopped. Red rage froze. There was the beast all around him. And that's what it was. A beast. Useful, but still a beast. You could hold it on a chain and make it dance and juggle balls. It didn't think. It was dumb. What you were was not the beast. You didn't have to do what it wanted. If you did, Carcer won. He dropped the sword. Carcer stared at him, the gleam of Vimes's sudden smile more worrying than the rictus of his rage. Then metal gleamed in his hand. But Vimes was already on him, grabbing the hand, slamming it again and again on John Keel's headstone until the fourth knife dropped from bleeding fingers. He dragged the man upright with both hands forced up behind his back and rammed him hard against the stone. See that up in the sky, Carcer, he said, his mouth by the man's ear. That's the sunset, that is. That's the stars. And they'll shine all the better on my lad Sam tomorrow night, because they won't be shining on you, Casa, by reason of the fact that before the dew's off the leaves in the morning, I'll drag you in front of veterinary, and we'll have the witnesses there, lots of them, and maybe even a lawyer for you if there's any of them who could plead for you with a straight face. And then, Casa, we'll take you down to the Tanti. One gallows, no waiting, and you can dance the hemp fandango. And then I'll bleeding well go home, and maybe I'll even have a hard-boiled egg. You're hurting! You know, you're right there, Casa. Vimes managed to get both the man's wrists in a steel grip and ripped the sleeve off his own shirt. I'm hurting, and I'm still doing it all by the book. He wrapped the linen around the wrists a couple of times and knotted it firmly. I'll make sure there's water in your cell, Casa. I'll make sure you get breakfast, anything you like. I'll make sure the hangman doesn't get sloppy and let you choke to death. I'll even make sure the trapdoor is greased. He released the pressure. Casa stumbled and Vimes kicked his legs from under him. The machine ain't broken, Casa. The machine is waiting for you, he said, tearing a sleeve off the man's own shirt and fashioning it into a crude binding for his ankles. The city will kill you dead. The proper wheels will turn. It'll be fair, I'll make sure of that. Afterwards, you won't be able to say you didn't have a fair trial. Won't be able to say a thing, ha. I'll see to that too. He stood back. Good evening, Your Grace, said Lord Veterinary. Vimes spun around. There was a change of texture in the darkness, which could have been man-shaped. Vimes snatched up his sword and peered into the night. The shape came forward, became recognisable. How long were you there? He demanded. Oh, some little while, said the patrician. Like you, I prefer to come alone and contemplate. You were very quiet, said Vimes accusingly. Is that a crime, Your Grace? And you heard a very neat arrest, said Veterinary. Congratulations, Your Grace. Vimes looked at the unbloodied sword. I suppose so, he said, temporarily derailed. On the birth of your son, I meant. Oh, yes. Oh, of course. Yes. Well, thank you. A healthy lad, I'm given to understand. We'd have been just as happy with a daughter, said Vimes quickly. Quite so. These are modern times, after all. Oh, I see you have dropped your badge. Vimes glanced at the long grass. I'll come and find it in the morning, he said. But this... He picked up the moaning Casa and slung him over his shoulder with a grunt. He's going back to Pseudopolis Yard right now. They walked slowly down the gravel path, leaving the scent of lilac behind. Ahead was the everyday stink of the world. You know, said Lord Veterinary after a few moments, it has often crossed my mind that those men deserve a proper memorial of some sort. Oh yes, said Vimes in a non-committal voice. His heart was still pounding. In one of the main squares, perhaps? Yes, that would be a good idea. Perhaps a tableau in bronze, said Vimes sarcastically. All 7 of them raising the flag, perhaps. Bronze, yes, said Veterinary. Really? And some sort of inspiring slogan, said Vimes. Yes, indeed. Something like, perhaps, they did the job they had to do? No, said Vimes, coming to a halt under a lamp by the crypt entrance. How dare you? How dare you? At this time, in this place. They did the job they didn't have to do, and they died doing it, and you can't give them anything. Do you understand? They fought for those who'd been abandoned. They fought for one another, and they were betrayed. Men like them always are. What good would their statue be? It'd just inspire new fools to believe they're going to be heroes. They wouldn't want that. Just let them be. Forever. They walked in heavy silence. And then Vetinari said, as if there had been no outburst, happily, it appears that the new deacon at the temple here has suddenly heard the call. What call? Said Vimes, his heart still racing. I'm never very good at religious matters, but apparently he was filled with a burning desire to spread the good word to the benighted heathen, said Vetinari. Where? I suggested Tingling. That's right on the other side of the world. Well, a good word can't be spread too far, Sergeant. Well, at least it puts... Vimes stopped at the entrance gates. Overhead, another lamp flickered. He dropped Carcer to the ground. You knew. You bloody well knew, didn't you? Not until, 1 second ago, said Vetinari. As one man to another, Commander, I must ask you, did you ever wonder why I wore the lilac? Yeah, I wondered, said Vimes. But you never asked. No, I never asked, said Vimes shortly. It's a flower. Anyone can wear a flower. At this time, in this place. Tell me then. Then I'll recall the day I was sent on an urgent errand, said Vetinari. I had to save the life of a man. Not a usual errand for an assassin, although in fact I had already saved it once before. He gave Vimes a quizzical look. You'd shot a man who was aiming a crossbow? Said Vimes. An inspired guess, Commander. Yes, I have an eye for the unique. But now I was fighting time. The streets were blocked. Chaos and confusion were everywhere, and it wasn't as if I even knew where he could be found. In the end, I took to the rooftops. And thus, I came at last to Cable Street, where there was a different sort of confusion. Tell me what you saw, said Vimes. I saw a man called Carcer vanish. And I saw a man called John Keel die. At least, I saw him dead. Really, said Vimes. I joined the fight. I snatched up a lilac bloom from a fallen man and, I have to say, held it in my mouth. I'd like to think I made some difference. I certainly killed 4 men, although I take no particular pride in that. They were thugs, bullies. No real skill. Besides, their leader had apparently fled, and what morale they had gone with him. The men with the lilac, I have to say, fought like tigers. Not skillfully, I'd admit, but when they saw that their leader was down, they took the other side to pieces. Astonishing. And then, afterwards, I took a look at John Keel. It was John Keel. How could there be any question about that? Blood on him, of course. There was blood everywhere. His wounds looked somewhat old, I thought. And death, as we know, changes people. Yet I remember wondering, this much? So I put it down as half a mystery, and today, Sergeant, we find the other half of a mystery. It's wonderful, isn't it, how alike men can be. I can imagine that even your Sergeant Colon would not realize anything. After all, he saw Keel die and watched you grow up. Where is this leading? Vimes demanded. Nowhere, Commander. What could I prove? And to what end would I prove it? Then I'm saying nothing. I cannot imagine what you could say, said Vetinari. No, I agree. Let us leave the dead alone. But for you, Commander, as a little gift on the occasion of the birth of There's Nothing I Want, said Vimes quickly. You can't promote me any further. There's nothing left to bribe me with. I've got more than I deserve. The watch is working well. We don't even need a new bloody dartboard. In memory of the late John Keel, Vetinari began, I warned you. I can give you back Treacle Mine Road. Only the high-pitched squeak of bats hunting around the poplars broke the silence that followed. Then Vimes muttered, a dragon burned it years ago. Some dwarves live in the cellar now. Yes, Commander. But dwarves, well, dwarves are so refreshingly open about money. The more money the city offers, the less dwarf there is. The stable's still there, and the old mining tower. Stout stone walls all around. It could all be put back, Commander. In memory of John Keel, a man who in a few short days changed the lives of many and perhaps saved some sanity in a mad world. Why, in a few months you could light the lamp over the door. Again, all that could be heard was the bats. Perhaps they could even bring back the smell, Vimes thought. Perhaps there could be a window above the privy that'd spring open if you thumped it just right. Perhaps they could teach new coppers to learn old tricks. We could do with the space, it's true, he conceded with some effort. I can see you like the sound of it already, said Vetinari. And if you care to come along to my office tomorrow, we can settle there's a trial tomorrow, said Vimes sharply. Ah, yes, of course. And it will be a fair one, said the patrician. It had better be, said Vimes. I want this bastard to hang after all. Well then, said Vetinari, afterwards I'm going home to my family for a while, said Vimes. Good. Well said, said Vetinari, not missing a beat. You have a gift, I have noticed, for impressive oratory. And Vimes heard the gentle note of warning as he added, "At this time, Commander, and in this place." "That's Sergeant at Arms, thank you," said Vimes. "For now." He grabbed Cars's shirt collar and dragged him to justice. On the way back to Scoon Avenue, in the dark of night, Vimes walked along the alley behind Clay Lane and stopped when he reckoned he was at a point halfway between the backs of the pawn shop and the shonky shop, and therefore behind the temple. He threw his cigar stub over the fence. He heard it land on gravel, which moved a little. And then he went home. And the world turned towards morning. The end.
Yay!
Woo! Sam Vimes, the only good cop.
Not so bad as Sam Vimes.
Oh my god. Oh, cheers. Cheers, everybody.
everyone.
Yay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my god.
Cheers.
How are you feeling, Frankie?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know, it's okay if after a little while you decide, hey, I kind of want to read to you folks for Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday one night. It's not like you can't come back and read to us more, right?
Thank you.
I mean, we're stealing your platform to continue reading to each other because we're going to miss each other too much if we stop.
Yay. Oh, feelings.
Oh no.
Oh no, feelings.
Also, you can come and just chill too, but like, we love you. Thank you for reading us so many stories. Thank you so much, Frankie. Thank you for making this pandemic a surprisingly lovely experience in a very specific way. Like, I've made new friends and grown a lot closer with a lot of people because of this. Like, we have spent hundreds of days together.
You did a good thing.
Thank you. And thank you, like, freaking everyone for coming on this journey and for, like, making this community and, like, coming along and hearing stories and also just being amazing with each other and to each other and being so talented and supportive and creative and cool and
I think it's hilarious that you think you should thank us for that, but also cute.
Yeah, you just were like, here's a space where you can do all these things. We all were like, holy shit, we can do this, and people are only gonna be nice to us? Like, literally only ridiculously nice and supportive? What? And like, you set the tone for that shit. This is your space, so you set that vibe.
This is a very, very aggressive compliment. Very aggressive kindness.
oh, you told me. I don't know what to say now. Thank you.
And now, Kirsty Logan, if you'd like to turn your camera on.
Kirsty. Thank you. Well, just quickly, and before I forget, and before we say goodbye to the catch-up crew and such, like, Friday, the plan for Friday, it's a fairly loose one, which is mostly being created tonight.
Still undecided.
Still a little undecided, but I thought what could be nice was So I've got a stack of books, which were sort of a stack of books, which were like Storytime potential future candidates that I was like, you know, some of them that I was like more or less sure of, but that I'd kind of thought could potentially have Storytime interest. That I thought it would be nice for people to know about, so that if they're looking for like book recommendations of the type of thing that might have been on Storytime. So I'm going to bring those along. At the top of the episode, I'm going to do like a little like 2-minute blurb of each of them, and then we'll do a poll, a clicky poll, and the one that people like the sound of best, I'll read like the first 5 to 10 pages or something, so that people can see what they think. And also I'm hoping that we can just get people doing a little bit of like raising a glass. I would really like a toasting session, like for everyone to be able to, if you have like specific memories about Storytime, or like if anyone wants to do like a shout out about a new friend that they've met, or like something that has been like nice for them around Storytime, like let's have some sharing of memories and anecdotes, and let's raise some toasts to us and each other and stuff.
And
like
bring water so that you don't get dehydrated from the inevitable crying from the feelings of that idea. Sounds really lovely.
I think it will be nice. I
love that we've had the last book of Storytime ending with a really cute baby, and things getting better and the world turning towards morning.
Yeah. And we also had Lisa, Ash, and Jonas in our sidebar, and I watched you play with them, and it was just so cute. And
the Storytime baby.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah.
So can I just say, Frankie, with that book list, if anyone wants to eventually have a Storytime book club and we can read those books, you pretty much just gave us the dream book club list for this group of people, I think.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah? Maybe once a month we'll pick a book club date of that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for anyone who wants to hang out and read books or something.
Sounds fun, but I have two important questions about Friday. One is, what snacks are we going to have? And the other one is, what's the dress code?
Business food.
I mean, I think any of the kind of like, if anyone has any like favorite snacks that have been Storytime snacks that they would like to revisit, red chocolate mousse, or anything with Biscoff in.
Biscoff.
Eaten with a long spoon.
Anything eaten with a long spoon. And for what we could wear.
Or lilac flowers. If you like eating lilac flowers.
They're edible, right?
Do a costume from any book and just.
Yeah, we could have if anyone wants to dress up as a character from their favorite book.
Or you could just wear what makes you feel really nice and use it as an excuse to dress up, because we don't really have many of those. And I think that's why so many people dress up for the night circus, because it was really easy to just wear something fun and then toss on a pop of red.
Nice.
So it could just be
that was cool.
Be a nice excuse to like wear what makes you feel like your favorite self, or what makes you feel something fun.
I feel like Storytime's got this ultimate like either like super like formally dressed just for the hell of it, or pajamas.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Formal pajamas.
Yeah, pajamas and a tux.
That's a great dress code.
I like formal pajamas.
Bathing is the other, is the third.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the costume that's never out of fashion. Should we say goodbye to the catch-up crew?
At first.
Oh, Bina had one more question.
What?
No, those were my two questions. One
those
was
were two?
about
Okay.
food and one was about outfits.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What? Did anyone else?
Sorry.
Lyric, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
No, I just wanted to check that Bina asked both her questions, but I merged food and clothes into one question. So, Zach, say what you were going to say.
This is your final tip jar shaking. Because we've now finished all the books. So the tip jar will be taken away at some point. So yes, you do not see all the hours a day that Frankie puts in behind the scenes, but they are there. So here's your final tip jar shaking. Shake, 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 shake. There we go.
Thank you, my darling.
Pleasure.
Yes, if anybody does want to throw a penny into the tip jar, that would be.
What's the address? PayPal.
Storytime@frankieporter.com.
Also, don't close the tip jar because we're planning on still using your Zoom account for community hangouty things. So either let us pay you for that space, or
the tip jar will stop being actively shaken. I think is more accurate.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
No more of that.
Cool. Catch up crew.
Catch up crew. Catch up crew. Catch up crew. Catch up crew. I hope you enjoyed this. Our final open parentheses question mark close parentheses Storytime book, or mine maybe. Thank you for joining for this and for any of the other books that you've come along for. It genuinely fills me with proper like joy and excitement to think about the catch-up crew and to think that we have like a Storytime community that is like even wider than like just the live crew and the people who can kind of make it along on the night. That's like catch-up crew, you are vital. You are very much not a kind of addendum or whatever. You are a like super real important valued part of this community. And thank you for being with us and staying with us, and we love you. It's not stupid hyperbole despite my exaggerated facial expressions. We can't help that. That's just what my face is like.
Yeah.
So catch-up crew, good night, my darlings. I love you.
Thank you.
Boop, 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 doo, 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 doo. Story.